Liberty Federal Credit Union and Ascension St. Vincent presents Chemo Buddies Hopefest, Saturday, May 6th at Friedman Park in Newburgh. A day filled with hope and inspiration for anyone affected by cancer, with a 5K run, Hope Walk, Survivors Parade, Cruise In, and live music. Register now at hopefest.net.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Evansville. I'm Johnny Kincaid. I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time to join us, and we're focused on the mayoral race here for Evansville. This is going to be an interesting election year for sure, and we can't talk about the mayoral race without having Rob Myers here. So I'm glad.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks. Thank you.
And even more important than that, somebody who really kind of lights up the room.
That's right.
Much more than you or I. Natalie Rascher is here with us, and glad to have you here, Natalie.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Natalie.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So we're gonna take some time today to talk a little bit about your background. You know, the big thing is that there aren't a lot of forums for, I remember from campaigning doing candidate forums, and they'd say, give your 2-minute stump speech.
Right, yes.
And it's like, how do I fit everything in 2 minutes?
Exactly.
You got to be kidding me. So, of course, the electronic version of that stump speech is the TV commercials.
Sure.
Right? So, and you've got a TV spot out right now.
Yes.
So we'll take a second to look at that, and then we're going to grade it.
Wonderful.
All right.
Evansville's made great progress under Mayor Winnecke, and Natalie Rascher can keep it going. Rascher will back the blue, push the state for tougher sentences for fentanyl dealers, and restore lives threatened by addiction. A businesswoman and an outsider, Natalie Rascher will make sure government serves you, not the insiders. She'll keep spending and taxes low, so good jobs stay right here in Evansville. Natalie Rascher, Republican for mayor.
All right, that's actually a very nice ad. It's very well produced. It looks great.
Thank you.
I think it's a great ad. The production value is quality. I mean, and you'd expect that. I mean, it's a mayoral race. When I ran as city council, I didn't have the funds to do anything like that, but I wish I could have. And great A for sure. Hit all the right points. It's consistent with the message from the campaign website and what we hear from Natalie out in the field.
I'd go along with the A. Good job.
Well, thank you very much.
Nice ad, and it's high road, which I know at this stage of the campaign, everything remains high road at least for a while until, the first shots get fired, basically.
Oh, no. I would like to think that we will keep it positive throughout my campaign.
I hope so. Well, let's start talking about just your background a little bit.
Yeah.
How long have you lived in Evansville?
Sure. I'm actually an Evansville native. Right. So the only time I was away was, of course, during school. I went to Purdue University for my undergrad degree, and then IU for my graduate degree.
And what's your degree in?
Well, at Purdue, I actually studied what was called Law and Society and Psychology. So that was a pre-law track. I have minors in forensic science and political science, and then also a minor in dance that I was speaking to another group recently. For several years, I taught dance class for the Smile on Down Syndrome Foundation. And, from time to time, I'll pull out those tap shoes and teach here and there. But, just a little unique fact there. But, of course, I went on to IU then for grad school, and I received a Master's of Science in Applied Health Science, which is similar to a public health track for administration.
Okay, so as I recall, then as far as career goes, I know that you worked at Kemper.
Yes.
And where are you working now, and what are you doing?
Sure. So currently I work at Clifton Larson Allen. It is a national CPA consulting firm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make the connection between
Sure.
all of those degrees.
Well, and I guess what I maybe left out there was I did go back to school after I had kids and, after I got married and everything. And I did receive an MBA from USI.
Oh, okay.
So whenever I started my career, it was at Deaconess Hospital, and I was a healthcare advocate. And it was a wonderful, experience and first job to, really have a chance to sink my teeth into some different policy making and some different programs that the hospital was providing. One of which always kind of comes to mind was the medication therapy management program. And we piloted that whenever I was at Deaconess, and I was part of that task force. And it was very interesting because we looked at the employee population and anyone with comorbidities, so multiple health issues, and specifically diabetes. We brought all of those individuals in, and we partnered them with pharmacists and with their primary care physicians and dietitians and exercise scientists. And we made sure that we were doing everything possible to help these individuals stay compliant with their medication. And whenever you have all of those people focused on one individual's health, that conversation and those lines of communication really open up, and you can really drill down and find out what's going on and how we can elevate their level of health. Mm-hmm. So within that first year, that program saved close to $2 million. So between the cost savings and the collaboration, I would say, that was my real taste of success whenever it came to applying what I had learned in the real world. So I'm very proud of that program. It's still in existence today, and it's much bigger than what it was whenever I left Deaconess, but amazing program. And I learned too there that, my passion was, really not just for the healthcare side and making policy there, but, drilling down into different organizations and seeing how you can make changes strategically to then enhance, maybe it's the revenue that you're receiving or, the return, the health and happiness of the employees or the clients. So that's where my focus really started to shift onto the business side.
And then family life.
Yes. Yes, married for 10 years now. My husband and I, we just had our 10-year anniversary this last Monday.
Congratulations.
So, yes, thank you. And then we have 2 little ones. We've got Porter, who's 8 years old, and our daughter, Wren, who is soon to be 7.
Oh, my.
Yeah, staying busy. But it's good. It's good. They're actually very excited about helping with the campaign. So, of course, in 2019, whenever I ran for city council, they were much younger. And I remember pulling them in the wagon whenever I would go door to door and stocking it with, Capri Suns and Goldfish and Cheerios and, books and anything to kind of keep them entertained while I was, out there knocking on doors. But this time around, they can walk. They don't need snacks constantly. So, they get a kick out of, giving out that campaign brochure or literature out. And then, my son, he's a talker. So then he usually starts a conversation, and it takes us 20 minutes to go door to door each time. But, it's a great experience for them.
Let's keep going about the city council run. If you recall, I ran for city council quite a few years ago, and it was a challenge. It was tough.
Sure.
Tell us about some things you learned, some things you like, some things you didn't like, some things you did maybe wrong that you can improve on with this campaign, and some things that you're going to use to your benefit here in this cycle.
Right, sure. Well, and I would say, running a campaign is very similar to anything in life where you're trying to accomplish a goal. It's hard to do on your own, and you have to have a group of really good people behind you. And, my 2019 race, it was a learning experience, for me and for my husband, my family. I was the first one to ever kind of, jump out there and decide to get into politics. And so we didn't know what we were doing. We knew that we had good ideas and that, I had this vision for my neighborhood and I wanted to help my community. So, while our organization wasn't as strong as it is today, that's where we really learned. We understand now the importance of, those absentee ballots and what goes into following up with those individuals and making sure that, you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and going through that whole process. So we definitely learned from 2019, and we know the importance, of course, of going door to door. That was a very close race. Whenever you look at the second ward, it's about 70% Democrats and 30% Republicans. And so we knew we had a lot of ground to make up at from the start. And we worked really hard, myself and of course my family and my team behind me. And, unfortunately, lost by 19 votes.
That is just amazing.
Yes. But in the grand scheme of things, whenever you think about it, though, I made up so much whenever it comes to, those voters, maybe thinking, well, we want something different from our area, or, maybe that Democratic message wasn't resonating with them and they were leaning to, more of a conservative viewpoint. So I think that that election was wonderful. Again, we didn't have the result that we wanted in the end, but I will say on election night, whenever I found out that, we didn't quite cross the finish line, I got up there and I thanked everyone and I said, I'll see y'all in 4 years, because, I knew I was committed to serving my community. Now, 4 years ago, I didn't think I would be sitting here talking about running for mayor, but that's another story, right?
For sure.
So, okay, since we're talking about that second ward race, this year, once again, there's a Republican in that run, and Missy's going to be in that position of defending her. How do you see this year playing out for second ward?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's going to be different, that's for sure, and for multiple reasons. So you have, of course, the district lines have changed. So we've actually, looked at the map and the census data, and I believe that it's going to be a little bit more Democratic now, where it may be closer to a 75-25 split there. So there'll be more ground to make up. But I think on the Republican side, we have an amazing candidate, Maytez Riviera, who, if you all haven't had the opportunity to meet her, she is a ball of energy, wonderful, strong Latina woman who's a business owner and has a ton of experience, and I think would really serve the second ward well.
Okay, good.
And Missy has had a iron grip on that ward for a long time, and we've talked about this in the previous podcast. I mean, she is out there everywhere, and she's very visible. It's not afraid to wear that yellow and flash it and be ready to go.
Yeah. She's done a very good job of branding herself. So it's
sure,
it's really
absolutely.
Race. So let's get back to your race, though.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to start with the fact that obviously you have great support from the current mayor.
Yes.
How did it come about that Lloyd decided that he wanted to back you? Yeah,
well, kind of going back to the story of election night, 4 years ago, and going up there and saying that I'll see you all in 4 years. My thought was I would be running for city council again. And back this summer, whenever Lloyd decided to not run for re-election, it really gave me pause and made me consider, well, what are my next steps? My vision was to run for city council, having Lloyd there and working as a team, because of course the mayor's office and city council have to work very closely together, and their relationship needs to be strong. They may not always agree on everything, but to have that mutual respect and understanding is important. And I think he's done a great job of fostering that with council and back and forth. So you have that moment of, well, now what, right? And then I started thinking, do I just leave it to chance? And do I let, somebody else jump in there with a leadership style that maybe doesn't jive well with mine or other council members? Or do I look at it as an opportunity to move our city forward? Because at the end of the day, I know that I have the skill sets that are required to fulfill this role. It is not an entry-level position, and I have executive-level experience from the private sector. And I'm one of the only candidates that can say that. So I think that, that idea going into it, kind of helped push me forward. But truly, it was a phone call from the mayor. It was him calling me and saying, Natalie, what are your plans? What are you thinking about doing? 4 years ago, whenever I ran for council, he had said, you'll make a really good mayor one day. And this was before I had even, completed my city council run. And of course I said, "Oh, Lloyd, you're just being nice. Thanks. I appreciate it. Let's focus on this race first." But he pulled me aside and he said, "No, I'm serious. You have the temperament, you have the skills, you have the ability. You would be a fantastic mayor for Evansville if that's something you would like to do in the future." And that really stuck with me.
That's great stuff. Some may question, they may say, Natalie doesn't have any political experience. She's never held political office. And I'm not picking on you. I mean, this is just reality.
Absolutely.
That's going to be the question of the voters and the people of Evansville. So go ahead. This is your opportunity. How do you respond to that? How do you overcome that?
I think I'm proud of that at this point. I mean, actually, Russ Lloyd Sr. Didn't have any political experience before he became the mayor. And, we've seen several individuals that have gone into politics from the private sector that have been successful. Mike Braun being one as well, a very strong business owner. So I think our city and truly the environment with politics all around is we are tired of having the same people over and over again kind of dictate what policy should look like, what government should look like, and what we're going to do in our community. I think it's time that we have individuals with that strong business background that understand the needs of our community and the importance of a return on an investment. Because I just don't see our community being able to continue to move forward and grow unless we have the right people in the leadership positions that are available.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now, and here, this might be you might not like me for this question.
Oh, no.
All right. But this deals with the experience factor.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's this I mean, I believe that anybody running for an executive position in a campaign should have some real life experience.
Sure.
Right. But in the case, in this case, you're going to come in with, now you've got a city council that you'll have to deal with, right?
Sure.
And that's your primary point of contact. Now, my experience has been this, because I used to do a lot of advocacy, right? And I learned early on that you ain't been lied to till you've been lied to by a city council.
Right.
I mean, it happens, right? Because they want to be on the winning side. So as you make a proposal and somebody grabs it and they say, "This is great," 10 minutes later, after they've called their fellow council people, they have a completely different feeling about what it is that you want to accomplish.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they know they're always polling the votes. So once they realize, oh, this is a 5-4 against us, I don't want to touch it.
Right.
Or worse yet, a 6-3 against us, I don't want to touch this. Right. So how are you going to kind of nurture some of the people on the council that just really tend to only rally behind those things that they know that they're going to be able to pass?
Well, I think that, we've got a very different council than what we've had in years past. I think that we've seen the individuals from 4 years ago that were newly elected. They've been able to work together very well. There's been some instances, of course, where they've been on opposite sides of issues, and that's okay. Sure. But being able to respect one another and sit down and have a conversation. So, if it is a parking ordinance or, whatever it may be that comes up, and you have some very strong opinions about it, I would like to bring those people to the table and have the conversation and explain, why we need to go in a certain direction or why I feel as though that we need to do this. And then they can explain, the other side of it. If we are all communicating, working together and respect one another, it may not always go the way that the mayor's office wants it to. But that's why we have a council as well, because they're there to help protect the citizens and make sure that, they're that fiscal body that's being responsible.
Okay, that's good. Now, you are following closely behind a mayor who has had limitless energy.
Yeah.
who he puts in the 80-hour work week.
Absolutely.
And he's at everything.
And I think we saw with your ad, if I may, it really is following that leadership. You can see that in the ad, and that appears to be the vision that you have, which I think is great. We've had a good handful of years under Mayor Winnicky, and I'm personally a big fan. I always have been. Mm-hmm. But we talked about this in the last podcast, and I'd kind of like to bring it up again. How do you go after this campaign and say, hey, I want to do something different, or I want to do more, without making it look like you're saying you didn't do enough, Mayor Winnicky? And so how do you balance that without giving yourself some relevance and saying, hey, this is why you need to vote for me, but not that there was a bad job done before? I think you follow where I'm at.
Yeah, because obviously your campaign is being infused with a lot of funds from Lloyd Winnicky. So it really is a matter of how do you address those areas where maybe you have a disagreement with him, or where you think that you can go in just like Rob said, you want to think we can go in a different direction on something than what we've been.
Yeah.
But also he's doing a lot for your campaign at this point.
Right. Well, I think the beauty of that is, part of my background too is I'm a certified mediator, and I'm also a conflict dynamics profile practitioner, which that is a mouthful.
Wow, that is.
Did you write that down?
Right? Yeah, I know. But essentially, whenever there's conflict and it's risen past a normal level, and I'm usually the individual that gets brought to the table to help bring it back to a point where decisions can be made. And so whenever you have those skill sets, you know how to approach someone whenever you have essentially bad news, or you have to have an uncomfortable conversation. Anyone in HR can tell you it's not the most fun thing whenever you have to have those conversations, but they're necessary and they have to be done. One of the things that is a little bit different between the current mayor and I are just, our backgrounds and what our skills are. So having the knowledge of talent retention and succession planning is something that I bring to the table, mm-hmm. and something that is needed at this point, specifically within City Hall. So whenever you're looking around the Civic Center and all of the individuals that are employed by the city, we have a large amount that will be coming up to retirement age within the next 4 years or so. And we have to make sure that we have good succession plans in place, because we cannot afford those vacancies where then work doesn't get done. It slows down the progress of our city. And not that I've been critical of the mayor by any means in this, but we've had very candid conversations and open conversations where I said, mm-hmm. this is something that probably should have already been addressed. It hasn't been, but I am happy to do it and have the skills needed to do so. And he understands that maybe that was an area of weakness for him. Every leader will have strengths and weaknesses. And this is just one of those areas that he understands I am taking a very strong stance on, because I know how important it is. And I've seen businesses fail because they didn't have proper succession plans in place.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. So how are you, obviously you're not going to be able to follow the schedule that Lloyd Winnicky has been.
No, we'll have a different schedule.
Yes, but how do you handle? It's still going to be high demand, and a big demand on your time. Yeah. So how do you handle that with a couple of little ones at home and a husband that wants to spend time with you?
Sure, absolutely. Well, and I have an amazing support system. So, while my children are younger, they're helpers, and we're past the stages of diapers and helping with showers and all of those things, but they can be there with me. That's again kind of this beauty of the position. I can be working at City Hall, and those kids can get out of school and come down there and do their homework alongside me if need be. I can leave at 5:00 and take them to basketball practice and Girl Scouts and softball and soccer and all of the different things, and still be able to take calls when needed. And thankfully they still have an early bedtime as well. I can put them to bed and then get back on my computer and finish up a couple of things need be. That's what I'm currently doing, because I'm balancing not just my home life and a campaign, but also a full-time job. Right. So honestly, it's going to get a little easier because I'm going to lose one of the jobs.
Okay, good.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. Let's do some questions from that have been submitted to us here.
Yeah.
All right. The first one is that we had somebody who was really interested in your faith.
Sure.
And where you are in that faith walk.
Yeah. So my family, we're members of St. Ben's Cathedral Church and school. That's where my kids go to school. So we're there about 7 days a week at this point. But it's a wonderful parish. And I went to St. James for kindergarten through 8th grade. That's up in Hobstadt. And, it's a wonderful community and a very devout Catholic.
So, what was your grade on the Right to Life report card 4 years ago?
Yes, it was an A+. Okay. So we haven't received our grades currently, but I would imagine here soon they'll come out.
Yeah, they should be soon.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Had another question submitted that I thought was really interesting, which is that you will be in a position, if you win this election, of being in a historic role.
Sure.
As the first female mayor of the city of Evansville.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a difference in leadership from men in that political office versus women in that political office?
Well, personal opinion or even research backed, it says yes. It says that women tend to make decisions that come from, a little bit of more of a place of compassion and understanding. They tend to be better listeners. And of course, this isn't the case for all, women versus men or anything like that. But the perspective of a female, I think, is going to be amazing for our city to have.
All right. Now, here's the one that somebody hit us hard on a question.
Okay.
And this deals with the now infamous Carol McClintock note.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any knowledge of that beforehand, before it got just leaked out there into the public?
So from me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that wasn't something that myself or my family or the campaign knew about. And, I really respect Carol, and I think that, she has a very strong opinion on, who she believes would be best to lead our city. I think it's unfortunate that someone found that note and then took it to the Courier and Press, but that happens. And, she has handled that with grace and has said absolutely that she had said that, and that's her thought.
So that brings us to also the other piece of the puzzle. We've addressed this in previous podcasts, but we've never had a chance to actually sit down with somebody face to face on it. And you're not Mayor Winnicky, so but we know that there is a rift there between Cheryl and Lloyd and Carol, and it becomes, I think, a matter of how does that. Trying to think of the right wording. Well, sometimes these questions, you go.
Oh, sure, no.
I don't think any of us really know how that all started,
right,
or what triggered it, or if it was just over time or certain situations. We really don't know the whole history behind it, what caused it, but it's there. And we know it's there, and it's out there in the open. It's not a secret, and the people know that. So it makes it real easy for the mayor to put his weight behind Natalie, and I get that. I think it's going to be an uphill road for Cheryl to overcome that.
And how does that impact you, or does it?
Well, personally, no, it doesn't impact me. I've been very singularly focused whenever it comes to my race. There's a lot of chatter out there, and a lot of things that you'll either see on social media or hear But, I choose to not let that distract me. You only have a limited amount of energy, and I want to make sure that all of that energy is being poured into my campaign. And then, also my playbook for Evansville to ensure that I have a good plan, a solid plan ready to go on day one whenever I am elected into office. So, the interpersonal relationships between, those individuals, that's not something that I've concerned myself with.
So what's your plan? Give us a little hint of what you think your strategy is going to be between now and May. I think the campaign radio ads, I don't know if you're doing any radio ads. I think they start end of March 27th through May 2nd. I don't know if you're going to do radio ads or more TV ads, but give us a little hint to what you're going to do to beat Cheryl. What is your plan?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think without showing all my cards, of course, right? It's to work hard. It is to do the things that I know that I can control and that I can do. And that means I'm going out there, I'm making the calls, I'm knocking on the doors, and I'm making sure that, I'm keeping my message positive and I'm keeping it relevant to the city and to the needs of our citizens.
So let's talk about the playbook for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you have some things that you see as needs for the city of Evansville.
Yes.
What are some of those things?
Yeah. So, well, first, I always kind of like to explain the idea of the playbook before I get into it. And all of this information is on my website. So you can go to www.rascherformayor.com. And you can find out, all of this information and really read it in detail. But this playbook, because my inner basketball coach couldn't just call it a plan, it had to be my playbook. It focuses on 5 different areas. So the first of which is public safety. And that's an area here that we, really, really will need to focus on whoever the next mayor is. And the reason is because we've had an increase in crime rates. We're starting to see fentanyl in our community, and we have to start talking about how we're going to address this, how we're going to make sure that we give, all of our public safety officers the tools that they need to be successful to keep our community safe. So that is a foundational piece, I would say, of that playbook. And it was the first piece of the playbook that I released in its entirety. The second piece is going to be economic growth and development. We have to make sure that as a city, we continue to grow and that we bring in, businesses that have good paying jobs, that we're making sure the businesses we have here, we're seeing to their needs and helping as the government should, but not necessarily giving handouts. We have to make sure that it is an environment where business can be successful. After that, I like to focus on talent retention because, again, back to the idea of the Civic Center and this succession planning that needs to start happening, we also have to look at how are we going to keep talent here. Evansville was just rated number 3 in the nation for remote workers, which is fantastic. But what that does, it puts a target on our back, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's, well, what are they doing, in other communities to outdo us, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we are staying above the curve. So we're keeping our housing costs low. We're making sure that we have space and place for individuals that are remote workers. And, I say this, I'm currently a remote employee and so is my husband. So, we choose to stay here in Evansville because we know, how amazing our community is and all of the different things that you can do here. But we want to make sure that we can attract talent and we're keeping them here so that we can sustain the growth of that economic side.
And we need that. I mean, we really do. If you look at the manufacturing that we have around here from Toyota and Ameriqual and companies like that, Cook Industries, Cook Heating and Air, there's a big demand for people. They need more staff. They're all short-staffed. And at the same time, if you look at the population history of Evansville over the last 10 years, it's not growing. It's not growing at the rate we want it to.
Right, absolutely.
And how do we change that? And how do we get more people here, whether it's from Illinois, because everybody's leaving Illinois. They went out of there. But how do we get them here? What's the secret? And I don't know the answer, and I'm putting you on the spot, but I think that absolutely needs to be the focus of whoever is leading this city is how do we get more people to come here?
Oh, absolutely. And then that is where, again, in my wheelhouse with my profession, it is, glaringly obvious to me. But whenever you start to talk to business owners, they're saying the same thing. And it's not one specific industry. We have the police department that has, I think, about 14 open vacancies right now, and they are having issues with recruiting. For the first time ever, they've had to create a task force that is focused on recruiting to ensure that they're getting good candidates that come through. Which this is great, but it's just now happening. We have to increase those efforts, in the public sector, the private sector, in, white collar, blue collar, union, labor, all of these different fields. I just listened to another podcast recently, and they were talking about, solar power and electric cars and, all of this different, means of energy. And they were saying one of the biggest issues about the converting over to any of this is we don't have skilled electricians to put these items in. So if you're wanting to convert, to, again, all solar and, an electric car and get all of this stuff put into your home, you may be on a year wait list before you can get a qualified individual to come and do the work. So there's just these positions that are open. And so we really have to think about how do we pipeline people into these professions, starting, maybe even before high school, letting our youth understand and know and have those experiences so that they can gain a passion for a skill, for a career, and know that they can do it here in Evansville.
Good stuff.
Yes.
I agree.
Want to hit real quickly on crime. We're running out of time, but I want to hit real quickly on crime because that's a big issue.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And it's not just here. It's a national issue. But if you do a web search on crime statistics for Evansville, and you do that Google search, and you come up with these pages that are talking about Evansville being like the third most dangerous place in the state of Indiana, and talks about in certain crime categories us being far above national averages and that sort of thing. How do we get past that? How do you see as a mayor being able to make a difference in that?
Yeah, well, and I think that's where we really need to kind of go back to this idea of a neighborhoods first approach, where we're looking into, each individual neighborhood, assessing what the needs are, and then, what kind of resources can the city provide, can private industry provide, and also nonprofits. There is a lot to be said about, taking care of your streets, making sure that, the grass is cut, that there aren't cracks in the sidewalks, and that you have a warm and inviting environment, because that deters crime. On Wednesdays, whenever the weather warms up, the police department actually does what's called Walking Wednesdays, and they go out into different neighborhoods throughout our community, and their job isn't to arrest people or catch someone doing a crime. It is to connect with individuals and create those relationships, because that's what makes our community safer.
All right.
I agree. Good stuff. That's about all I had, John.
Okay, well,
that exhausts my list.
That's good, because we're exhausted on time too.
All right.
Well, I would be remiss if I said there are also two other sections of my playbook. One is infrastructure and quality of life. So I really encourage listeners to go out there, check out those. I know we ran short on time, so I don't have an opportunity to speak to those, but it's all really good stuff.
It is. I've been at the website, and it is very well done. There's a lot of good content there, and I would encourage everybody who hears this to get on there and check it out.
And we hope that we get a chance to get you back into the studio here to do another session.
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure.
Well, it's been fun. Thank you very much, Natalie. Next week, we are going to be talking to Cheryl Musgrave. And the week after that, we'll be talking to Stephanie Terry. So we're getting around to all of the mayoral candidates here in the next couple of weeks. So be sure that you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and then join us again next time around for This Week in Evansville.